Hello and welcome to another episode of E&F TV's Bridging the Gap. And today I'm joined by Lotte Bergsma from Marriott Early Years Development. Hi, Lotte, how are you?
Good morning, very well. How are you today?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I chatted off camera about the weather, weren't we? About how things are it's cloudy and rainy and it's the same down in London. So yeah, apart from the weather, all good.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a nice summer.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to have you on the show. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your, I suppose, career development from leaving university up until now.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. And in preparation of this conversation, we had a nice chat as well about everything Voyage and Marriott. So I'm very excited to be with you today and talk about my favorite topic. I studied hospitality management, and when I in my final year of university had to do an internship, which I did with Marriott and just never left. So here we are. As soon as I graduated from my hospitality course back in the Netherlands, I did our Voyage program, which is Marriott's postgraduate leadership development program. So it took me about a year and a bit to complete the program. Had an amazing time, fantastic leaders, mentors, coaches, people that were there to support me in that starting phase of your career, figuring out what you want and what you're good at. Coming out of that graduation on the program, I became an HR manager for one of our hotels back in Amsterdam. Had a great time as well, learned a lot, especially when COVID hit. So being a career starter in an HR management position during COVID, you can imagine, was quite challenging. So times changed a lot. But as I said already, also learned a lot from that. Whilst I stayed in that HR role, I also stayed very active in our Voyage program because I'm such a believer in it, and I love what it does to those career starters and how it supports you. So as I said, always stayed involved in the program. And from a company's perspective, coming out of COVID, in the area of Europe, Middle East, and Africa, we had very little Voyagers. And the company saw it as an amazing time to step in, and where we wanted to make changes to the program, do that. So we wanted to bring in more consistency. We wanted to set up a centralized recruitment process for the program for our hotels in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I took on the challenge, and we centralized this recruitment process for the program. Was a fantastic time. You can imagine, coming from the Netherlands, stepping out and learning to work with countries from South Africa to Iceland to Kazakhstan and everything in the middle. It was great to get to see the organization from a different side and meet so many new people. And whilst we set up that new Voyage recruitment process, we learned that in the UK, we wanted to bring a little more love and attention to the program and other early career starting programs as well for our hotels in the UK, Ireland, and Iceland. So that's when I took on my current role, looking after, as I said, all career starting programs for our 60 hotels in this beautiful area of the world. So here we are.
You radiate Marriott, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah.
You live and breathe it, and it's all you've ever known. And if I look at most people that have worked for Marriott or work for Marriott have worked for Marriott for a long time. There's a good longevity of service there.
Yeah.
Would you say that's down to the Voyager scheme? Does that kind of help? You're getting people in early, it's a graduate scheme. You're developing them, you're creating loyalty. Would you say that that's down to Voyager partly?
Yeah, I mean, what Voyage does is, of course, as you can imagine, with a postgraduate program that prepares you to take on leadership roles in the future, it comes with a lot of trainings in order to understand what does it mean to be a leader, what type of leader do I want to be, and how do I get there. So, of course, it comes with a lot of trainings that support you in getting there. But I think, to me, the biggest benefit of the program is being connected to other Voyagers as well. So in the UK at the moment, we've got UK, Ireland, and Iceland combined, we've got 85 Voyagers today. And we'll have another 15 joining us within the next month or so. And we connect all these Voyagers with each other. So we do orientation events all together. We have an end of year program where we bring all of them together. But also on a Europe, Middle East, and Africa level, we organize monthly workshops and catch-ups so they all get to know each other. You see, we've got this massive WhatsApp group, and if someone says, okay, I've got a project and I need to increase the Marriott Bonvoy members, who's done the same? Can we have a chat and talk about how you did it? So you see that we really support them and being connected with other peers as well. And especially coming out of university, having always done everything with other peers and other students, making friends for life. Then when you start your career and it's just, it might feel like it's just you. We want to make sure that they do have that community and that sense of, you know, I've got friends. And that's super powerful. So coming out of Voyage, you know, people within your hotel, but also beyond, and working with people that you enjoy and getting opportunities to grow your career, whether that's within the same hotel or same country or outside. Yeah, once again, that's so valuable and powerful. So I think that's really, yeah, a big benefit also to Voyage graduates to choose to stay with the organization because they know their people, they've made new friends. And we see that in the company throughout, that, as you say, we do have a very long years of service. People tend to stay with the company for so long. And that's because they enjoy it. It's a company that puts their people first, feel it in everything that you do. You'd hear everyone within the organization, if you'd ask them, why do you enjoy working with Marriott? A lot of people will tell you the company says they put people first, but they actually do. We're having fun together. We enjoy the world of travel. That's why we're in it. We love working with people, and we want to support each other whilst we do it. So yeah, Voyage definitely helps in igniting that spark from the start. Yeah.
I think it's interesting what you're saying, and many companies say company culture and company ethos is important to us, but very few live and breathe it like Marriott do. I think it's interesting that the graduates come onto the Voyage scheme, coming from an environment, a university where they are, a lot of the unis that I guess lecture in are kind of one big happy family, really, going into Marriott and the Voyage scheme where it's similar ethos and carrying through into a full-time, paid position with Marriott, creating that longevity. I think that's really interesting and exciting, and it's obviously something that you guys have got right. Tell me a little bit about tell us about the Voyage scheme.
Yeah. So Voyage is, it's designed for those that are coming out of university and that they have the ambition, as I said, to grow into those leadership roles. And the program is designed to, in 12 to 18 months, give you all the tools and resources in order to get there. So in the 12 to 18 months, you would take on a supervisory level role within a department of your choice. And we'd offer Voyage in our operational department. So that will be food and beverage and room operations. And at the moment, we see that about 80% of our Voyagers in the UK, Ireland, and Iceland hotels, they sit in these operational departments. Other departments in which we'd also offer Voyage is finance, sales and marketing, HR, engineering, events, culinary, you name it. Yeah, we get you ready to function that supervisory level role. Though we do think it's really important that you get an understanding of how all these departments work together. Eventually, if you grow towards these leadership roles, you'd also be working with leaders from all these different departments. And if you do ambition to become a general manager, it's really beneficial to have that background to understanding what everyone else does. So they also get the chance to do complete mini rotations in all different departments, where they spend some time in every department, work with the team to understand what they do. So that's part of the program as well. Before I said that Voyage, of course, comes with lots of trainings to get you ready to leadership roles. So some of these trainings would include emotional intelligence, but also how do you work in teams with different generations, different cultures, especially if you do come in as a career starter, you might be leading people that have been in position for longer than you exist. So they might have seen it all. How do you deal with that? So it's the practical trainings like these as well. They would get certified with the Cornell certification as well. So Cornell's university in the United States. So we've got several courses that are available for our Voyagers to complete as well. We find it very important that every Voyager completes at least one project whilst they're in the program as well. So they take that on within the hotel. That can be anything, but at least that they get the understanding of, okay, we've got an idea and we want to bring that from A to Z. Who needs to get involved? How do you get things done? So that project is part of the Voyage program as well. And a support system and support network is really important. So where the Voyager completes the program within their hotel, they'd have a coach who's their department leader. They'd have conversations with the Voyager on a monthly basis. How are you doing? What's your challenges? How can I support? They would get a champion within the hotel as well, so a senior leader in a different department that would have similar conversations on a quarterly basis. And they would get a mentor assigned anywhere else within Marriott, not in their own hotel, but somewhere else, can be anywhere in the world. So they'd also have that chance to have conversation with someone that might have a position that they envision. How did they get there? Understanding how do you go about creating a mentor relationship? Because that's a skill as well. People keep telling you, find a mentor. It's so important for your career growth. But how do you go about that? How do you approach someone? How do you start that conversation? Maybe there's times that it gets awkward because you know who leads that and what the kind of questions you ask. So it's a great opportunity to get the chance to develop that mentorship relationship. If you're lucky, you get to keep that person for the rest of your career. Perhaps not, but then at least, you know, whilst you're coming out of the program, you know how to lead those conversations. That's a lot of me talking, but should give you a bit of an idea of what you'd go through on the program. And coming out of it, of course, the question is what follows after Voyage? And we would really support on an individual basis. We never want to guarantee a management role is waiting for you at the end of it, because every person and every situation is so different. Perhaps someone is very ready for a management level role and the perfect position comes up and they promote to a management level role. We've seen that a lot. But others, they might want to change departments or move to a different hotel, and they could do with a little extra experience in either a supervisor level role or a system manager. So there's no guarantee for whatever kind of role at the end of it. The guarantee that we do give is the support that we offer in finding the right role.
Okay. What's the retention rate on completion of the Voyage program then?
So we on completion of the program, it's I have to think, because in the last year we've maybe had 1 or 2 out of the 80 plus that I mentioned that didn't complete the program in 2023. So last year we've seen a retention rate, so those that stayed with Marriott after completion, of 88%, and 2020
Wow.
year to date that is 94%. So that's a number I'm very proud of.
Brilliant.
As we do see that they really stay within the company. Yeah.
And although you don't guarantee them a management position at the end of the 18 months, do you guarantee them some kind of position with a view to managing in the future?
Yeah, and that's of course the guarantee that you're making when you offer them the Voyage role. The program is designed to support into future leadership roles. So from a company's perspective, Voyage, of course, has been designed in order to prepare ourselves for the future and to create these future managers. And, you know, taking on a leadership role, being a general manager of a hotel, that's challenging. From a company, if we know that we've trained this person from the start, they know our systems, they know our way of working, they understand the leadership values and the competencies we'd require in those positions. If we know that they've gone through Voyage and we know that we've prepared them well in the Marriott ways, or just, you know, understanding what it means to be a leader. So yeah, I think with sending an offer for Voyage at the start, we tell them we're ready to support you into future leadership roles.
Fantastic. You mentioned a few going back a little bit in the conversation, but what value do you place on the development of soft skills throughout the 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot about finding their position in the teams, how, you know, who are they, how do they communicate, how do they get things done, and getting things done, you get things done if you work well within a team, right? And a lot comes down to communicating, then getting that respect from team members and that trust that they know if you say something that you'd follow up on it. If you say something and if you say we're gonna get there together and I'll support you in the process, you'll get, it's all about teamwork. So we really focus a lot on giving them that feedback as well. That's what the coaches and champions are for, those monthly and quarterly conversations I was referring to before. They're really there to make sure that you know, what we might think of someone if they don't function or if their communication is not correct. Having these monthly conversations gives us as coaches, champions, leaders of the business that are there to develop those voyages, the chance to tell them how, you know, we look at their performance as well, and how we think they can improve in their soft skills. So it's crucial. Yeah.
What's the appetite for a career in hospitality in the UK specifically? Because we read a lot of there's a lot of negative press about it, isn't there? And if I talk to some of the hospitality lecturers that I know so well, they'll tell me that most of their students are from overseas,
Yeah.
and appetite for a career in hospitality in the UK is kind of on the wane. It's not held in such high regard as it is in well, overseas in some countries in Europe and elsewhere in the world. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, and I think we, especially coming out of COVID, COVID didn't do great things for the hospitality industry, of course. And we also see that if we look at the voyage needs our hotels had. So that's what we'd call when hotels, they would request for a Voyager. And then we as recruitment teams, we try to fill those positions, of course, and we can look at the numbers of positions we've actually filled. So if we go back to that 2021, just coming out of COVID, we see that we filled perhaps 20% of the voyage roles that our hotels requested to have filled. And we've been slowly building up. So the year later, that was still between 20 and 30%. And then we see that last year, we were able to fill, and now I do want to have my numbers right because I have that right here.
You can guess.
But yeah, so we towards like the end of 2023, we see we went up from 30% to 88%. And
Wow.
now this March and June intake, we filled about 90% of those needs that the hotels had to fill those voyage positions. So we see that from all the work that we've been doing in connecting with students during their course, not just connecting with them by the time they're looking for jobs at the end of it, but actually staying with them from day one in university, showing them what it's like to work in hospitality, but even more importantly, also showing them the career progression that is available within the world of hospitality has really helped us in getting to fill those voyage positions. So yeah, working in hospitality, as you say, it's we've seen it changing, and it's definitely improved in the last 2-3 years. But we still see that a lot of students are very interested, perhaps more in the back of house roles than they are in the operational roles. So it's our job to show them what it's like to work in operations. You get to have the chance not to just be at your laptop, but you get to have the chance to work with people and be on the floor, step away from your laptop, which is something that we all do so much. So we've been changing the narrative in making sure we show the benefits of the industry, the travel that comes with it, and the amount of career progression that comes with it as well.
Give yourself some credit, because 20 to 30% going up to 80 to 90% of those voyage roles filled is absolutely exorbitant. Fantastic. Is that all down to, you're going to say, yeah, it's all down to me, aren't you? But is that all down to you and your team going out and getting in people's faces and talking about what a brilliant career it is in hospitality? Or has there been a shift in perception over the last year or two? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so together with all hotels, we've done so much work in connecting with students. So many of our hotel leaders, people within our hotels, they mentor students during their courses. They go out and give workshops and presentations about working in hospitality. Since this year, we've been going out more to secondary school ages as well, because that's the time when you start thinking about what's the type of studies that I want to do, or perhaps I want to do an apprenticeship instead. So being so young, whoever gets the chance to see all the different jobs out there to actually make a really well-informed decision on their career choices, that will impact for the rest of their lives. So all of us, we've been working so hard and just giving kids an opportunity and have them have a look into the world of hospitality. So just last year, we attended more than 120 different university events, workshops, presentations with all with all hotels combined in the UK. We also started providing Marriott masterclasses, so twice a week we have different leaders within the industry talk about their field of expertise, their career journeys, just to show people that this is what it looks like. Because once again, there's so many options, so many options to pick from. If I pick hospitality, what does that look like? So we've just been putting in a lot of work to give them an opportunity to, of course, we speak about it very highly, but the goal of it is to give them a chance to decide if it is for them. So that's really where we've put in a lot of efforts, and what I believe is the reason why we've seen those numbers increase so much.
Just let me pick up on something that you said regarding secondary schools. I don't believe many people do that, and I believe that that may be worth exploring a little bit more to boost the numbers of people interested in a career in hospitality, because you are so not susceptible, but at that age, someone coming into your classroom and talking about different careers can really fire the imagination. And a certain person that may want to travel the world and see fantastic hotels and experience a different way of life, it really does fire the imagination. I don't believe there's many people doing that. Would you agree?
No, and that's what you hear a lot as well. It's if you'd speak to the career advisors at schools as well, they've got such a big job to do, but eventually it's also about the employers and the companies and the industry partners out there to make those connections as well. And we get quite a bit of feedback from the students or from the career advisors, that parents, they think, oh, working in hotels or in hospitality, really, do you want to do that? Do you need an education for that? Well, I mean, you can do an apprenticeship and still grow and become a general manager, but also if you go to university and then start in hospitality, let's talk about the career progression. There is fantastic opportunities out there, so it's definitely a group of people that we all as industry partners need to think about, because that's when the decisions are made.
No, absolutely, and it's commendable that you've had the foresight to do that, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Just touch on the visa situation. Obviously that's changed. It's been in the news recently, as of I think April. I can see you scowling at the word visa. How much more difficult has that made your life in terms of, I suppose that obviously not that much more difficult because you've kind of got that fantastic retention rate, but how much more difficult has it made keeping that rate up there, keeping people in the UK? Because I presume overseas graduates will go onto a postgrad visa, do the 2 years, and then they're in a situation where they need sponsorship, need to hop onto another visa, or they go back to the home country or elsewhere. How difficult has that been?
Yeah, so for those that aren't really aware about, okay, what does it need to get a visa, what's required? So I think it's important to understand that the salary that comes with our Voyage program, within our London hotels, the Voyage program, we pay close to 30K on annual basis. Until recently this year, the visa threshold that was required in order to be eligible for a skilled visa was 26 or 27K on annual basis. So that means if an international student, if you'd graduate, indeed, you would get a 2-year graduate visa, so you can stay within the UK and work. You would get a Voyage position, and then you graduate, and you'd only needed that 26 or 27K coming out of Voyage in order to qualify for this visa. So as a company that means that you'd already sit in this in the salary scale that you would need. So all that is required is for the company to sponsor you this visa. So we have success stories of those international students that completed Voyage and that stayed after and got this visa because they fulfilled these salary requirements. Now from this year, from that 27 or 26 or 27K I was referring to, that has increased to 39K. So that means that's a big jump in order to qualify for this visa. So it's really challenging coming out of Voyage to get that visa, because from that 30K you're making as a Voyager suddenly need to jump to the 39K. That is a big jump. You might need a couple extra years depending on who you are. Perhaps that's 1, 2 years, 3 years to get to that new visa or new salary that's required. So as a company, we're very dedicated to supporting anyone that's completed Voyage to stay within the company. And we're lucky enough that we've got hotels in 139 countries to this day. So if there's no opportunity for a Voyage graduate to stay in the UK after that 2-year graduate visa expires, then we would support them in staying or looking at countries where they can get a visa. So in our case, we see that the Middle East is a region where we can quite easily get everyone a visa. Or we'd look at, okay, where's your home country? Or where can you work? Can we support you in making a move to that area? And perhaps you can come back to the UK once you've grown to more senior leadership roles when it becomes easier to get that visa. So it's definitely become more challenging. The rules have just changed, so we don't have success stories yet of Voyage graduates that got a visa now in this new rule system. Perhaps next year that will be different. You never know. Though what we can guarantee is support in finding a position in other countries. Yeah.
So you will sponsor Voyagers as long as you're able to, in terms of, be it paying them over that threshold, and if not, you'll support them to find work outside the UK elsewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's never a guarantee that we'd get anyone a visa, of course, but if they meet that salary threshold, or if, the government changes rules, or there's a new entrant visa, for example, if that's options that we can look at, and the hotel has the option and the budget to cover for a visa, then yes, the company is definitely willing to consider it. But if it's not in a line of possibilities, then we'd really put in everything in place to support the Voyage graduate to make a move elsewhere. Yeah.
Without wanting to get too political, so we're crying out for hospitality, skilled hospitality workers in this country, and yet the government make it more difficult for these guys to stay on our shores, contributing with the skills.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you want me to say? I feel we need someone that's come out of the hospitality ranks to take on positions within the government and the decision makers. Because it's especially also talking about that diversity that we bring in the workforce and the benefits of working in hospitality. I've always enjoyed working with people from so many different places in the world. And it's just become more challenging, of course, to get those people from all over the world into our hotels. But we keep smiling, and we make the best of it. We continue to promote the global skill of our business. Perhaps, if not today, perhaps in the future when you've worked yourself up to other sort of roles. Yeah.
Absolutely. Remember this at the polls, guys, next month. That's all I'm going to say. Moving swiftly on before I get banned. How do students go about signing up or applying for the Voyage scheme?
Yeah. So the process that we've got in place is that so we have 3 intakes per year. We've got a March intake, a June intake, and a September intake. So we've got different moments when we'd open those roles. We'd go out to universities, make sure that the jobs are promoted in the right places. We'd make sure that we have workshops, both in person and virtual, in place to talk about Voyage, to answer those questions, for students to know what the application process looks like. So by the time that they come to hit that apply button, they would send in their CV application, and we would check, okay, indeed, did you graduate? It's not an internship or a placement. You really need to have graduated. The rule is that you need to have graduated within the last 2 years. So perhaps you've done a gap year or some traveling, or you've had a different job, and you'd still want to make a move into a program like Voyage. You've got 2 years until after you've graduated. So that's the kind of things we check for in that initial stage. And then people would complete both a management assessment, where we'd assess for the leadership competencies that we've put in place, and they would complete a video interview. So that's 3 basic questions. There's no person on the other side of the screen. It's system generated questions. Why do you want to work in hospitality? Why have you chosen to apply for a program like Voyage with a company like Marriott? And why the department? Which discipline are you interested in? Tell us a bit why you see yourself fit for that role. It's a good way for us. We get a large number of applications. So to give you an idea, for this June and September intake, we had about 20 positions in our UK hotels, and we received 400 or 500 applications. So the interview, that 3-question interview for us is a great way to get to know the person beyond the CV. And those that have made it through those steps will be invited to what we call a Voyage Discovery Day. So we give virtual and in-person options. I love the in-person one more than anything. But we bring the candidates together. We'd invite the hotels that are looking for their future voyages to come along to those days. And we would ask the candidates to work together in group assignments. So they would get an assignment where they'd have to come up with, this year, it was a new Marriott brand in our portfolio. Other years, it was a festival that needed to be organized on an island with 3 Marriott hotels, and they needed to decide where the people were going to stay, for what costs. So there's different cases that we would present to them, and the candidates would work together while the hotel teams, the hotel assessors, would sit in and see how they'd observe how they'd work together. What we find really important in that step of the process is that the candidates, they understand different perspectives of other people in their teams. So I can't tell people enough, we're not looking for the loudest speaker or the person that speaks most. We're looking for the person that would say, "Hey, Jason, I've not heard you yet. What's your opinion? What do you think of this?" So we really look for those that bring in everyone in the team and also accept other thinking than their own. We find it important that people would understand the end goal of the exercise, and that they keep the team focused and focus on delivering those results. So that is something that we find important as well. And we find it important that we see some kind of industry knowledge trends, that if we're talking about hospitality, that they'd also say, "Oh, if I were a guest, I would like this or that," or that they bring some sort of hospitality interest into the conversation as well. So coming out of those Voyage Discovery Days, we've met all the candidates, we've seen them work together. Our hotels would say, "Okay, these are the people I think will be a great fit for my hotel." Of course, we're talking about a countrywide selection process here, so we'd never place a candidate in a location where they don't want to go. So we know exactly from the candidate, I want to go to London or to Edinburgh, and I want to work in F&B. I wouldn't send them to a finance position in Bristol. So we'd really make sure that we do make those matches based on of course, the preferences of the candidates and the opportunities that the hotels have available. And then the last step is that they'd have a one-to-one conversation with the hotel, because the process has been very Voyage-centric and quite general up until that point. So we've assessed, yes, you're a good fit for Voyage now, but we also understand if you'd go to one of the hotels in London or anywhere else, that you'd want to have a chat with your future leader, that you'd want to understand what is happening in that hotel. They might be going through a renovation, or they might have the best restaurant of London. So you'd want to get to know a bit more about the hotel specifically. So that is that final stage, and then they would receive the offer. So that's our process. It's been put in place that way because we have a lot of people applying, but also we want to make sure that we hire the right people. We invest a lot of time and energy, and it would be a shame if we'd hire someone if actually they just applied because they wanted the job after university and this came up and it looks like a nice and good salary, so let's just give it a try. So that's the application journey they would go through.
It's quite a rigorous process, but as you say, it's got to be rigorous for those reasons. You want to have people on board that are going to go through the full 18 months of training and come out of it, you know, willing and able and with a skill level to work for Marriott.
Yeah, and we see especially the Discovery Days and especially the in-person events. We've only received very positive feedback, and every time the day ends, it's like, who wants to go for a drink? And they're all leaving the hotel, going out for a drink together. And then you've got the orientation event, and they're like, "Oh yes, you made it into the program as well." And they start making connections in the recruitment stage already. So that's always something that makes me very excited. Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I suppose anyone wanting to apply, The intake for June is obviously gone. The next one is like September, did you say?
Yeah, so September we've hired already as well. So the next one will be
Okay.
2024. So those roles would open towards the mid or end September.
Yeah.
And we'd close the recruitment process by mid-November and November-ish. So that will be the next
Fantastic.
time to apply. Positions and more information would always be posted on mymarriottvoyage.com. So that's where people can go to get a bit more information. And to review the positions, as I said, by end September when they're open for the March 2024 intake.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So any questions, you don't mind people getting in touch with you, connecting on LinkedIn?
No, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. Well, listen, Lotte, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed learning about the Voyage program, and I'm sure students listening will as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful conversation. Yeah, as I said at the start, it's a topic near and dear to my heart. I love talking about it. I really believe that coming out of university, knowing the amount of opportunities, jobs, different industries that are out there, it's challenging to find that right role. But I think it's really important to understand that perhaps you would start your voyage in food and beverage and you've had a great time, but also you learn that life brings you something different and you want to change. It's an industry that allows you to change and explore different career paths whilst you stay with the same company, with your people. So taking this example, starting as a Voyager in food and beverage, completing the program, perhaps you want to make a move into finance or a different department. We'd always support these moves to different type of roles as well. So you don't have to stick with that one choice you make coming out of university. You can make sure that you always keep yourself challenged, that you find the role that you enjoy at that specific time. And that's okay if that totally changes by tomorrow. We're really here to support those career starters. So yeah, that's the final thing I fit with.
I think, yeah, it's the die is not cast really at that age. These people can morph, change direction. You know, and Marriott's such a vast organization that you've got the size for them to be able to do that, haven't you? Which is absolutely fantastic. Great.
Exactly. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so much, Lotte. That's all we've got time for this week. Like and share the video, and let's get this in front of as many students as possible to make Lotte's life as easy as possible. Thank you. See you next week.
Here we go.